Hello to all of you amazing moms out there. This is episode 31 of the Solve for Mom podcast, and I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi. We are also launching into a fun 4-episode Spring into Action series. As you can tell, I'm having a lot of fun with all of the changes that the new season is bringing in. And spring really is a time of change. It's a time of new beginnings, renewal, and lots of activity. And that's right, it's a time that requires a lot of action. So, this Spring into Action series is meant to help us start taking action as we spring clean, quote unquote, our minds, our plans, and our lives. Let's make sure that we don't lose ourselves in all of this new burst of activity. Well, today, I'm going to explore how letting go strategically creates this lasting peace in our lives. Are you drowning in that too muchness that comes with motherhood? Do you feel that constant pressure to do it all? Have you been craving for a less complicated life or for ways to feel more at peace in your life? As a mom, I've experienced firsthand how chaos can just take over. When multiple priorities compete for attention and distractions just multiply, your mind starts racing. Your natural rhythms get disrupted and establishing any kind of routine feels so impossible. That's why I'm so excited to share some strategies that can bring more peace and calm into your life, starting today. I'm going to tell you about how I've been experimenting with some minimalist principles and how you can use them to transform your busy season into one of intention and purpose. By the end of this episode, you'll see exactly how reducing and eliminating paradoxically leads to both the simplicity and richness you've been seeking. So, if you're ready for a minimalism mindset, then take a deep breath and pop in those earbuds because things are about to get less stressful. Welcome to the Solve for Mom podcast. Do you love spending family time together every day but realize that your own interests have fallen to the wayside? Do you have a long list of things you wish to learn but you're so tired from trying to balance it all on your own and frustrated from not planning ahead to make it happen? Have you been mom for so long that you've lost track of who you are as an individual? Hi, I'm Anoki. I'm a PhD biomedical researcher, homeschooling mom, and life coach. I too poured myself into being a mom and thought I had to stop doing the things that I love to do. I was struggling to make time for myself, had lost my sense of direction, and kept second-guessing myself. I wanted to take back control of my purpose and passions. But I kept telling myself there'll be plenty of time for that later. Until I did what was natural to me. Using the methods of a scientist, I created plans to prioritize my values, organize my time, and take action towards my goals. If you're ready to go questing for your purpose, level up your learning, and confidently pursue your passions while still being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this complex equation we call life, it's time to sharpen our pencils and our minds and solve for mom. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to ask you that if you have enjoyed Solve for Mom, then please, could you share your favorite episode with someone you know? Husbands have even joined in on our online group who had been seeking insight into what their partners experienced during motherhood. Like one Solve for Mom listener who wrote, I like the analytical approach. It can be applied to anyone's life. It also gave me more insight into the lives of moms. Well, thank you for sharing this feedback, and I hope more goal-oriented moms find us every week so that you can stay connected to the things that make you feel like you during motherhood. You know those mornings when you start with a clear plan and strong intentions, but despite your best efforts, chaos just takes over your day? You have this carefully crafted schedule, and it just unravels hour by hour. You get this pit in your stomach. You might even be determined to prioritize self-care, whether that's your morning workout or relaxing in the bath or diving into that book that you've been meaning to read, or just simply being fully present with your children. But making it happen feels like an uphill battle often. Well, I want to transform that reality into one where peace and harmony can flow naturally through our schedules and our minds. Because when we create these pockets of calm, even small ones, we immediately feel more centered, more in control, and more authentically ourselves because we've kind of made space for what truly matters. So there was this one year where I was primarily a stay-at-home mom, and I was at home with my toddler and a baby. Eventually, I had to make a very certain shift back into scientific consulting. I actually knew this is exactly what I needed, both as an intellectual outlet and a path to financial independence. but I was also worried about adding more to my already busy plate. With absolute clarity about my goals, I knew this transition needed to work seamlessly with my family life. So rather than letting it become another overwhelming responsibility, I decided to take control of the situation. Luckily, I followed my intuition and I figured out that I needed to confidently decline opportunities that didn't really align with my needs. By focusing on one project at a time and eliminating unnecessary commitments, I created a simple approach that basically maximized my impact, at least what I had to offer, and minimized the stress as much as possible. Through carefully curating my responsibilities at work and at home, I maintained my energy and created genuine peace in my daily routine. And so this is how I avoided cluttering my home, my mind, and my calendar. And I created more ease throughout my day. So I established a dedicated evening work block after my kids were in bed. And so this might not be ideal for everyone, but it turned out to be invaluable for me. This structure allowed me to be fully present with my children during the day while knowing I have focused, productive time ahead of me later that night. And so each evening, having just tucked my kids into bed, I was able to look forward to this period of intellectual engagement where I can make meaningful contributions to healthcare, which is my field of work. And I could do that free from mom guilt and distractions. Well, my journey led me to embrace a minimalist mindset, though not really in that traditional sense. My home remains vibrant and it reflects the multicultural heritage that my family life includes. But there was something intriguing about the fact that the more I strategically said no to things in my life and stripped out that excess fat, so to speak, I was able to get more out of my time. The key insight was this for me. By deliberately choosing what to eliminate from my life, I actually expanded my capacity to achieve more, to experience deeper joy, and create lasting impact for both my family and my professional aspirations. And this is why I'm convinced that simplifying is a pathway to living with greater balance and serenity. And while I continue to refine this approach in my own life, I'm eager to share the specific ways that this minimalist mindset has transformed my daily experience. So let me share what I mean by a minimalist mindset. Because many of you probably associate minimalism with simply owning less and decluttering, right? That's what I thought of at first. But actually, now I know it's much more powerful than that. To me, a minimalist mindset is what actively shapes what we welcome into our lives, not just what we end up removing. And so rather than thinking of it as a way of restricting ourselves, we can actually make deliberate choices about what truly serves us and including that in. I like to think of it as having a discerning filter, one that naturally allows anything draining, anything unfulfilling, or stuff that waters down your life. You just let all that flow right through and out. And then you retain everything that sparks joy and reflects your values and moves you towards your vision. This creates a life that's filled with genuine meaning and purpose. So I found this approach really empowering, and it kind of transformed so many different aspects of my life. I'm a high-achieving mom, so saying to take things out and do less is a really hard thing for me to wrap my mind around. I did this in terms of our possessions. I did this in terms of my daily routines and my commitments. I started rethinking some of my relationships and even my personal goals. It's actually a proven path to living with intention. And I just want to point out that I'm providing suggestions, right? But this is honestly a mindset. And so the actual strategies that I explain are really flexible, and I don't really think that there's a right or a wrong way to do this, but it does take a little bit of experimentation to basically find the right way for your life. So the first place to use this minimalist mindset is to simplify your routines. Routines are basically powerful tools, and they're a series of very intentional steps done in a certain sequence and on a regular basis, right? And when you've designed your routine really well, they become the foundation for a very smooth running day. That's why we have routines. And it also reduces mental fatigue, and it maximizes your productivity and also your peace of mind. Routines are a way of making your life feel easier. Now, I've created strong routines for so many different areas in my life: workouts, mornings, homeschooling, weekly planning, kids' bedtime. Each one serves a very specific purpose, right? The key is to be crystal clear about what each routine needs to accomplish. Because without this clarity, it's easy to include unnecessary steps, and then that makes your routines overly complex and harder to maintain. So when you strip away the non-essential elements, you're basically left with no stress routines, and they naturally bring more calm and focus into your day. So the simpler your routines are, the more likely you're going to stick with them and you're going to experience some benefit from them. So I've simplified many routines in my life, everything from chores to meal planning to my morning routine. So let me share how I made this work for one of them. My morning routine now consists of just 6 essential, very short, like 2-minute tasks. I make my bed, I start the laundry, I brew some coffee, I do my basic hygiene, and I have very minimal makeup. I literally figured out that if I just put eyeliner on, I feel very done up. That's all I need to have a little bit of, hey, you look put together look to me. And I wear a capsule jewelry set. And so every month I pick out a necklace, a pair of earrings, and a ring that I have in my jewelry box. And then in the next month, I'll pick another set. And so for a whole month, I'm just wearing the same one. But by wearing it every day, I do feel like I have this polished look to me. Now, I could add more steps, but I found that I don't need to. 2 minutes, 6 steps, and I'm done. In less than 15 minutes, my day has already gotten to a great start, and I've done so many things. These core actions are exactly what I need to start my day and to feel prepared and centered. It's a very streamlined approach, and it creates such a sense of ease rather than this overwhelm that I used to feel in the mornings. Another area for your minimalist mindset is intentional resource use. As moms, your most valuable resources are your time, your energy, relationships, finances, and emotions. These essential elements deserve careful management, especially since they're finite. And that's why I strongly recommend conducting a focused audit of each of these resources. And then carefully, you can prioritize them and deliberately align them with your life plan. By identifying what truly matters most, you can then ditch that hustle culture that we're always involved in and strategically direct your resources towards your priorities, while confidently you can scale back on activities that don't serve your vision without you having to worry that you're missing out on things. For this to be successful, you have to be crystal clear on your values and your purpose. Because then when opportunities arise, whether it's a new membership at the gym or a weekly soccer commitment for your children, you can then ask yourself decisive questions. Does this align with my values? What specific values does this activity bring? And then you can be strategic about where you invest your time, your money, your energy. And something I'm actually working hard to do right now is to use this minimalist mindset to start freeing up my weekends. Now, life planning basically will serve as your powerful minimalist filter for managing all of these resources and removing obstacles. And while life planning guides you towards your goals and your vision, it's equally valuable as a decision-making framework. At its core, life planning empowers you to create clarity and simplicity. And I know you've heard me bring up life planning a lot, almost every episode, right? So if you're ready to discover how life planning can transform your approach to things, then you're going to want to take my focused 6-question quiz. It's super quick, engaging, and delivers personalized insight. You're going to receive targeted recommendations based on your specific needs. So you can find this quiz at solveformom.com/quiz or go to the show notes and click the link there. So a third place to use the minimalist mindset is to declutter your space. Now, we discussed that minimalism goes beyond just decluttering, but of course, your physical space does directly reflect your mental state. So you do want to have that very streamlined, clean look to your home. Decluttering often presents real challenges, especially when you have children. But what I've discovered is that our most meaningful possessions aren't things at all. They're actually the relationships and memories that we have created as a family. This natural evolution towards simpler living as we grow as a family and we all get older becomes even more relevant, especially as a parent. And despite the inevitable accumulation of all of the things that happen to come along with children. So if you want to know what I'm doing, within our home, we've purposely selected items that truly embody what home means to my family. So every time we walk through the front door, we experience that unmistakable feeling of peace and belonging, a sensation that I'm committed to cultivating for my children. I want them to be older and still remember what that feels like. Home. One of the ways that I create this calming, warm home is to stop my family from drowning in possessions. The impact that clutter has on our well-being is undeniable. It directly diminishes our sense of peace, whether at home or at work or any space where we spend a significant amount of time. So for me, that's even my office desk. Excess items not only create unnecessary distractions, but it seems to perpetuate this illusion that we actually need these things that are present in our home when we might actually not. I don't actually claim, guys, to be a decluttering authority at all, but I have established an effective daily routine. And I did talk a little bit about my daily decluttering, and so I'm going to link that in the show notes. So what I do is I have my daily decluttering system, which is like 10 minutes or less. I also have a super no-stress home cleaning system that I follow. I spend a little bit of time on both of those every day. What that does is it ensures that my family has a sense of freedom of movement in our home, that there's always this level of comfort. And also, I have peace of mind that if visitors were to stop by unexpectedly, which we love having visitors, then I don't have to stress out like, oh my goodness, look at the state that my home is in. And so with this minimalist mindset, I'm able to prioritize quality over quantity for new purchases. It's sort of a deliberate approach to bringing items into our home a little more naturally, and it prevents that culture of accumulation that tends to happen, especially as a parent. I have regular points like seasonal changes essentially when I check and evaluate what is it that I can reduce or remove, and how can I keep these spaces clear. I've also made it a point to teach my children the value of taking care of their possessions, because then that reduces our need to go out and replace them and get more things. A surprising thing that I found was that when I use this minimalist approach for our possessions, I actually had to tap into quite a bit of creativity. So for example, in our homeschooling, when we have projects, I actually just end up having the kids use things that are around the house, materials, recyclables, and that way we're able to use those as learning tools instead of purchasing new supplies and then often having these kits and things sit after one use. Now, if you were to walk through my home, you're going to see shelves filled with games and puzzles and books. But guess what? We actually value those things because those are the tools that we use to actively foster connection in my home and family. And so that is something that we welcome into our home. By having that clarity, we are now able to filter out the other unnecessary things, such as disposable toys, which we don't feel bring much value in our home. And so I think so far, we've sort of found this joy in returning to a simpler form of pleasure that doesn't require as many physical objects. That doesn't mean that we don't have stuff. We certainly do, and we go through waves, and, like I said, seasonally, we declutter. Often, instead of looking at things as our form of entertainment or screens, we start thinking about how we can go outside and be entertained in nature or do things that just come from our imagination, like charades or singing or sharing family stories. And the last area that I'm going to talk about is digital minimalism. Now, digital minimalism is a powerful strategy that puts you in control of your relationship with technology. And you might have actually heard of this because this is an idea that was really developed quite a bit by Cal Newport, and he wrote about this in his book, Digital Minimalism. So you can think of this approach as putting you back in the driver's seat when it comes to your digital environment rather than the technology controlling you. So you get to be intentional and thoughtful about how you use technology, and you create a space for what truly matters, just like we've been talking about minimalism in all these other areas of our life, and then putting boundaries on the stuff that you want to keep out. Again, this is a proven approach to digital wellness, and it is one of many strategies that can help prevent burnout and overstimulation. I think it's one of the easiest strategies personally. With a clear life plan as your foundation, you can start taking control of the devices in your life, and it really becomes much more straightforward and impactful. You can evaluate each piece of technology against your core values and goals, and then make confident decisions about what to keep, reduce, or eliminate. So I actually recommend starting with a deliberate digital detox or reset, which is basically temporarily removing devices. And then you get to discover which ones genuinely enhanced your life. So just like with decluttering our space, we can sometimes hold on to things that we think we need. But then when you actually remove them, like in this case, removing some of your tech, once they're gone, you might actually find that you don't even miss them. And sometimes you might find that their absence actually improves your daily life. It is often the case that our devices are holding us back instead of helping us. Like if we're scrolling on our phones instead of being present with our kids. So in my home, I've taken some really specific actions where we've eliminated our cable subscription. I've streamlined my apps on all of my devices so that I don't have a barrage of things to select from. I have, by default, silenced every notification except for 2 apps that I use very strategically. We've also reduced electronic toys in our house. You know, those ones that are like noisy and flashy? We're trying to get rid of those. And then my latest favorite has been to convert my iPhone display to a black and white screen. And it's super simple, but amazingly powerful because I don't get sucked in and tempted by all of the colorful pictures that show up on my phone. It's just super bland now, and it's like, I actually got this idea from the book The Opt-Out Family by Aaron Lochner, and I highly recommend that book for even more brilliant ideas. And I hope you had a lot of fun with this first episode of the Spring into Action series on Solve for Mom. So let's wrap up, gals. Today, I shared how a minimalist mindset can bring peace and joy to our busy mom lives. These 4 simple tips we talked about today are going to be your ticket to letting go of that overwhelming pressure to do it all. So let me remind you of the easy 4 ideas that you can get started on today. 1, simplify your routines. 2, intentional resource use with life planning. 3, declutter your space. And 4, digital minimalism. While there are lots of other wonderful ways to embrace minimalism, these are the ones that I have tested out already in my life, and I believe it's improved the quality of my life. So the amazing thing is that as ambitious moms, when we embrace minimalism, we actually unlock some beautiful benefits. We can pour our hearts into meaningful projects that really light us up, and you can find peaceful, relaxing mental space that we often crave. It's going to boost our productivity with streamlined routines. And I just find that so incredible. Like, it's so unexpected that the solution to being able to enjoy more is to do less. I'll be the first to admit that developing this minimalist mindset is sort of like flexing a new muscle. It's going to take some practice. It did for me, at least. It really taps into discipline and self-control. But I know you've got this. And trust me, once you embrace this powerful, less is more approach, you're going to feel the chaos just melt away. You're going to discover a deeper sense of joy and purpose. I'd absolutely love to hear your journey with these tips. So drop me a note at hello@solveformom.com and share your wins. Your story just might inspire another mama out there. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other ambitious mamas about it. Who knows, you might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. Thank you for making my show a part of your day. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Solve for Mom podcast with Anoki Kapasi.